Kanye West, or Ye, as I guess we're calling him these days, always seems to be surrounded by controversy.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
But this time it feels different, you know? This isn't about his music or his interesting fashion choices or even his, well, let's just say his outspoken personality.
Right.
This time it's a lawsuit, a very serious lawsuit.
Yeah, and we're really going to deep dive into all this today, really get into the weeds of the lawsuit filed against him by his former assistant, Lauren Pisciotta. This case brings up a lot of issues that we see too often, especially concerning power dynamics and accountability in the music industry in particular.
Okay, so to start, Pisciotta filed this lawsuit back in June, and at first it was mainly about sexual harassment in the workplace. Inappropriate messages, comments, behavior that made her feel uncomfortable, unsafe even.
Yeah, and it's important to make sure everyone understands what we mean when we say hostile work environment. It's any situation where an employee feels uncomfortable, threatened, or discriminated against because of things like unwanted sexual advances, offensive jokes, that kind of thing. Basically, anything that creates a hostile or abusive work environment.
And Pisciotta also says she was wrongfully terminated, meaning she believes she was fired because she spoke up about the harassment or because she didn't, play along with West's advances, allegedly, of course.
Exactly. And as if this whole thing couldn't get more complicated, the lawsuit just took a wild turn. Pisciotta amended her complaint to include allegations of drugging and sexual assault.
Whoa. Okay, now this is where it gets really serious. Can you tell us more about these new allegations?
Sure. So Pisciotta is claiming that she went to a studio session. Kanye and Sean Diddy Combs were there, and that it was at this session where West drugged and sexually assaulted her. She says she remembers having a drink that West himself gave her, and after that, everything's kind of hazy. For years, she just thought she had been drugged, but recently she says more memories of that night have come back, triggered by West allegedly talking about it.
That is incredibly disturbing and, really makes you think about what Pisciotta must be going through emotionally.
It's awful.
Okay.
And it's really, really important that we say that, as of right now, these are just allegations. West has not been charged with any crimes, and he completely denies all of it. Through his lawyers, of course.
Right. Innocent until proven guilty, as always. However, these are incredibly serious accusations. What kind of evidence is there to back up these claims?
Well, we don't have all the details yet, as the case is still in its early stages. We do know that according to court documents, Pisciotta says she has text messages from West that are very sexually suggestive and just, well, not something you'd want to see in any work environment.
And these text messages are pretty bad, right? I remember seeing some of them quoted on TMZ.
Yeah, some of them are pretty explicit. Like one of them, and I'm going to quote it here, allegedly from West reads, "See, my problem is I be wanting to fuck, but then after I fuck, I want a girl to tell me how hard they've been fucked while I'm fucking them. Then I want her to cheat on me."
Wow. Well, that's something. And just incredibly inappropriate if they are real, of course. Those messages would definitely be considered evidence of a hostile work environment.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not even just about what the messages say, but also when and how they were sent. This was a working relationship where West was definitely in a position of power over Pisciotta.
Okay, so we've got these text messages as evidence, but what about the drugging and assault? Is there anything besides her word?
Well, that's where things get more difficult. Pisciotta says she doesn't remember a lot of what happened until recently, so getting evidence is much harder.
I imagine it's pretty common with assault, especially if drugs are involved, that the victim doesn't have a totally clear memory of what happened.
Yeah, sadly you're right. It's a fact that makes these cases extremely difficult to prove. However, just because we don't have specific types of evidence, that doesn't mean someone's claims are not true.
And then there's Diddy. It's crazy that he was allegedly there that night, too.
Yeah, that definitely adds another layer to it all. He's not being accused of anything by Pisciotta or anything, but still just the fact that he was there.
Especially with his own legal stuff going on. He's got those charges against him right now, the sex trafficking and racketeering, I mean.
And that's the thing, those are totally separate, but you do kind of wonder if this case could end up impacting his situation somehow. Could this lead to more investigating or affect any possible plea deals? It's all just speculation right now, but definitely something to keep in mind as this all plays out.
Okay, so we've got these serious accusations, text messages, Diddy being there. It's easy to get caught up in the gossip of it all.
It really is, and it's easy to fall into the trap of he said, she said. But I think it's important to remember the bigger picture here. This case is really shining a light on the power dynamics that we see over and over again in these industries, music and entertainment especially.
It's like We all know it happens, but actually talking about it. You've got Pisciotta, who's relatively new to this whole world, working for someone as big as Kanye West. The difference in power there is massive.
Absolutely. And when you're in that kind of situation, it can be really hard to speak up, even if you know something is wrong. You're afraid of what will happen. Will people believe you? Will it ruin your career? Will the person retaliate?
It's got to take so much courage to come forward with these kinds of allegations, knowing you're going up against someone with a ton of money and power.
Exactly. And that's why these cases are so important. They get people talking about how he treats survivors, about believing them and creating safe spaces for them to tell their stories.
It's about creating a culture where people are held accountable no matter how rich or famous they are.
Absolutely. And it's not just about what the accuser says, it's also about how the accused responds. In this case, West's lawyers have come out swinging, denying every single thing.
They're basically saying that Pisciotta was the one coming onto West, offering him, and even giving him gifts to try to get ahead in her career. And when that didn't work, she tried to extort him.
Yeah, it's a pretty typical defense strategy in these situations, trying to make the accuser look bad, make them seem like they're just after money or attention or something. But we have to remember, these are just legal tactics. They might not have anything to do with the actual truth.
Yeah, it's like two different courts, right? You've got the court of law and the court of public opinion, and they don't always agree. So how do you think this is all going to play out in the public?
That's a great question. I mean, you've got West's fans, his diehards. They're going to be on his side no matter what. And then you've got people who just don't want to believe these kinds of accusations against successful men in general.
And then on the flip side, you've got people who believe Pisciotta, maybe because they've been through something similar or because they see this as part of a bigger problem.
Yeah, definitely makes things complicated. And it's hard to say what will happen. Will people focus on West's celebrity and his influence? Or will they be more open to believing Pisciotta, especially now with the #MeToo movement and everything?
There's a lot to consider. We'll have to see how public opinion changes as we learn more. But for now, let's talk about what might happen legally for both of them.
Okay, so there are a few ways this could go. The case could go to trial, and a jury would decide if Picciotta's claims are true.
And a trial means everything comes out right. Everything's public. That could really hurt both of them. But it would be interesting to see how their lawyers would handle it all.
Oh, for sure. Or they could settle out of court. We see that a lot with these high-profile cases. Both sides avoid the risk of a trial.
So basically, West would pay Pisciotta some money, and she'd drop the lawsuit.
It's possible. For someone like West, someone who has a lot to lose, his reputation, his brand deals, a settlement might be worth it, even if it costs him a lot of money.
It's a gamble either way. It really comes down to what Pisciotta and West decide to do. And this could really have a huge impact on both of their careers, right? Kanye, or Ye, I mean, he's already had people boycotting his stuff, saying he should be canceled because of some of the things he said and done.
Oh, absolutely. This could make all that even worse. Hurt his brand deals, his reputation.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what will happen, but this could be a turning point for him.
Yeah. And Pisciotta, well, this is definitely risky for her, professionally and personally, but she might end up being seen as someone who's brave enough to stand up to powerful people.
It might inspire other people to come forward, to share their stories. Maybe we'll start seeing some real accountability in the music industry.
And it's a reminder that even in places like Hollywood or the music world, there are ways to get justice. You can stand up for yourself.
Yeah, and it goes beyond the legal stuff. This whole thing should make everyone think about how we handle these kinds of situations.
For sure. We need to create a world where survivors feel safe enough to come forward and they know they will be heard.
And where people in power can't just get away with anything, no matter how famous they are.
This case, it really shows us that this stuff can happen anywhere to anyone, no matter how much money you have, what you do, where you come from.
We all need to do our part to make sure everyone feels safe and respected. We need to be talking about this stuff, making sure people know what consent really means, and holding each other accountable.
It's a process. It takes time. But cases like this, they shine a light on these issues and force everyone to take a hard look in the mirror to really look at how we're treating each other and make a change.
We're going to keep following this case as it goes forward and bring you all the updates. In the meantime, never stop asking those tough questions, those uncomfortable questions, and let's keep pushing for a better world.
That's what these deep dives are all about. We don't just want to give you the headlines. We want to really understand the bigger picture, the impact, the implications, and encourage these critical conversations.
I hope this has given everyone a lot to think about. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged, because together we can make a difference.